Who was Marvin Miller? Marvin Miller was a leader, a labor union activist, determined to make changes, admired by players and fans, and a fighter for rights. Marvin Miller was born on April 14th, 1917, in Brooklyn, New York. In 1966, he was an economist and labor leader who then went on to work for the MLBPA, or Major League Baseball Player Association. Miller fought hard for rights of players, managers, and coaches, and helped change the game of baseball, along with other professional sports. He worked for free agency and felt that players should have a say in their career standpoint. Miller is responsible and thanked every day for the tremendous actions he took for the world of sports. Miller left behind an extraordinary legacy. He transformed the Players' Union into one of the strongest unions in the United States and won many of his cases he fought. Miller taught MLB players human capital, and he transformed the business within the game and gave players more rights. He allowed the start of players to have a salary demand and speak what was on their mind. Miller made salaries increase, gave the players an opportunity to rise, and made baseball a different game. And all due to Miller's actions, the business within baseball changed greatly. On November 27, 2012, Miller passed away in Manhattan, New York, at the age of 95. The world lost a truly great man. Miller was raised in Brooklyn, New York. His parents are Alexander Miller and Gertrude Wald Miller. His father was a salesman in the garment district, and his mother an elementary school teacher. He learned about unions and how people should be treated in a workforce, watching his mother in the United Federation of Teachers. He grew up walking in picket lines and enjoyed doing so. His dad also was a Giants fan, and he grew up watching baseball. As his education progressed, he received his degree in economics and graduated from New York University. In the same year of his graduation, he married Teresa Morgenstern, and later on had 2 children. He then started his career of multiple jobs before becoming the Major League Baseball Player Association Executive Director. Both his parents' jobs led him in his career path, and he found his first job for the New York City Welfare Department. Soon after that, he became an economist at a war production board. After World War II, he worked for the United States Department of Labor's Conciliation Service, and as a research economics for the United Steelworkers of America. Then he became the Major League Player Association Executive Director. Marvin Miller was able to become the Executive Director for the Major League Baseball Players Association by going to an interview, and along with that, he wrote a letter stating why he believed he was fit for this position and how he could revolutionize the union. After receiving the job, he fought for players and was respected by many. He received letters from current players thanking him for the actions he took and how he approached them. Miller changed the way the game was run, those who play it, and all those who participate in it. In one of Miller's speeches, he talks about the relationship between players and owners and how they both realized that the union could be very strong and demanding. It discusses the question, why did it take so long for the players to form an organized union? Miller was a factor for this, but a lot of the credit had to go to the players as well. Miller, with his labor management skills, was the perfect push the players needed to get this union started. One man who was vital in helping Miller's actions was Curt Flood. Curt respected Miller in numerous ways for what he was trying to accomplish. Flood is best remembered for his courage in challenging the reserve clause, a move as crucial to the economic rights of players as Jackie Robinson's was to breaking the color barrier. The reserve clause was a clause in player contracts that bound a player to a single team for a long period, even if the individual contracts he signed nominally covered only one season. During a conversation between Flood and Miller, Miller said to Curt, "Unless some miracle takes place and the Supreme Court reverses itself, you're not going to win." And Curt, to his everlasting credit, responded saying, "But would it benefit all the other players and future players?" Miller responded, "Yes." Curt said, "Then that's good enough for me." This conversation was talking about Flood not wanting to be traded to Philadelphia and didn't want to be treated like a commodity. Miller realized that players argue for 2 things, more money and more rights. In 1968, Miller helped players negotiate the first ever collective bargaining agreement in professional sports. This agreement raised the minimum salary in baseball from $6,000 to $10,000. In 1970, Miller also helped players negotiate the right to arbitration to resolve their complaints. Miller considered this one of the most significant achievements of the union's early years. Miller now believed there was time for the right of free agency. After strikes and a lot of hard work, the players won that right in December of 1975. Miller earned the players' trust and they enjoyed working by his side. Due to free agency, pay to a player now was determined on execution and the position they played. Contracts had different salary types and players were allowed a say in the process, rather than just being told what was happening to them next. However, even with free agency, there always will be money issues in professional sports that not even Marvin Miller himself can fix. Miller's leadership from the time of 1966 to 1982 was near perfect, raising the average salary from $19,000 to $240,000. But his legacy in the game of baseball might be even more important. Miller and his union forced baseball's first strike in over 60 years in 1972. This forced managers to rethink their decisions, and after 7 strikes and a lockout, he opened the door to free agency in December of 1975. Miller drastically changed the lives of all athletes, but also changed the way fans look at how the game's played and run. Players' rights in sports became a very powerful union, and Miller made this change happen.
However, even with all the positive factors that Miller brought to the table, he wasn't appreciated by everyone. Miller to this day still isn't in the Hall of Fame, and many people question it. Considering he was working with and for the players, managers weren't a huge fan of his. Walter O'Malley, the Brooklyn Dodgers owner, relocated his team to Los Angeles, and Barney Dreyfuss, a long-ago Pittsburgh Pirates owner to whom he did not get along with. His nemesis, however, was baseball commissioner of the time Bowie Kwan, who Miller frequently outworked. Miller said Bowie Kwan was a negative factor for baseball. Without any question, if he hadn't existed, we would have to invent him.